The blue divider tab lay flat against Nadia Ellison's closing binder. Passenger conduct controls. 4 words printed in white beneath the brass clip. Nadia sat in seat 2A with the binder across her knees and a paper cup cooling beside the window. Her black sweatshirt carried a faint line of rain across one shoulder. Her sneakers were clean, except for water darkening the edges. The belt was fastened. Her mobile pass had scanned green. Seat 2A had been confirmed 3 days earlier. For several minutes, no one questioned it. Marjorie Keene welcomed a gray-haired couple by name. She lifted a garment bag for a man in a brown jacket and placed it inside the forward closet. A consultant carrying 2 phones and an open laptop was directed to his suite without being asked to prove anything twice. Then Bennett Carlisle entered the cabin. He stopped beside Nadia's row and looked at the number above her seat. That's usually held for me. Marjorie checked the tablet in her hand. Nadia watched her expression change only through movement. Marjorie straightened the tablet. Her thumb opened another menu. "Mr. Carlisle," she said, "let me correct this." Nadia looked at her mobile pass again. Bennett rested one hand on the divider beside the aisle. His cufflink touched the polished surface. "My office sent the preference yesterday." "It's here," Marjorie said. The note did not promise a seat. It read window preference when operationally available. Marjorie stepped closer to Nadia. "We've had to make a small operational adjustment." "What adjustment?" "We can move you to premium economy and issue a service voucher." Nadia looked past her. Seat 2A was intact. The entertainment screen worked. The reading lamp was on. No maintenance tag hung from the headrest. "What changed after I boarded?" Marjorie held the tablet against her waist. "The active assignment has been updated. That tells me what you did. It doesn't tell me why." Bennett checked his watch. "I have calls to make before takeoff." Marjorie gave him a quick nod, then returned her attention to Nadia. "We are trying to resolve this efficiently." Nadia kept the binder closed. "Please give me the original assignment time, the override time, and the operational reason. We do not provide internal notes during boarding." At the gate console, Maya Torres saw the change appear. Seat 2A had moved from Nadia Ellison to Bennett Carlisle 7 minutes after Nadia's pass had scanned. The service recovery field showed cabin irregularity. Maya glanced through the aircraft door. The seat was visible from where she stood. Nothing was wrong with it. A reason box opened beneath the override. Marjorie entered operational seating balance. Maya's hand remained above the keyboard. She was 6 weeks into probation. The station duty manager had already told her that concierge passengers were not the place to learn independence. She closed the alert. Inside the cabin, Marjorie addressed Bennett as Mr. Carlisle. She called Nadia, "Ma'am." Captain Everett Sloan stepped out of the cockpit after Marjorie spoke to him near the galley. He carried no printed record. He opened the current seat display on Marjorie's tablet. "Ms. Ellison, your assigned seat is now 12C. My confirmed seat was 2A when I entered the aircraft. I'm looking at the active assignment. Open the version history." Everett did not move his thumb. "This aircraft cannot depart while you refuse a crew instruction." Nadia placed the paper cup on the side ledge. "The instruction was created after I sat down." Everett closed the display. "You may accept 12C or leave voluntarily." Nadia looked toward Maya at the doorway. Maya lowered her eyes to the console. Nadia unfastened the belt. "I will leave when directed. I will not agree that the assignment was validly changed." Sergeant Paul Danner boarded with 2 airport officers. Marjorie told him Nadia refused her assigned seat. He checked the current display, not the original scan. Nadia stood and reached for the closing binder. One officer took her upper arm before she had cleared the suite. The binder opened against the armrest. Pages slid beneath the service cart. The blue divider tab tore from the clip and caught under a wheel. Passenger conduct controls. Bennett raised his phone. Most passengers looked down. Nadia was escorted onto the jet bridge. Behind her, Marjorie changed the passenger status to remove failure to accept active assignment. Nadia sent Leah Moreno the flight number, the names, and one instruction: preserve every seat map version. At the gate console, Maya reopened the record. 2 versions of seat 2A were still there. Nadia's original assignment remained valid in the history, so why had Marjorie needed to create another one? Your supervisor will review it after departure. The customer resolution agent slid a rebooking acknowledgement beneath the glass. Nadia Ellison read the first line. Passenger voluntarily declined revised accommodation. She left the document where it was. I did not decline accommodation. I declined a reassignment created after I boarded. The agent folded both hands beside the keyboard. This desk cannot investigate cabin decisions. Then give me the reference number for the desk that can. We need the supervisor for that. The chair behind the adjoining station was empty. A laminated card said back shortly. It showed no return time. Beyond the window, Flight 712 began pushback. Nadia opened a secure message thread with Leah Moreno. Preserve the original scan, every seat change, the dispatch summary, and all employee entries. Pause closing authority. Do not cancel the financing. Leah replied with a case identifier. Material conduct hold opened. The hold froze Nadia's final signature, the plan drawdown, and the public closing notice. It did not move a dollar. Not yet. Inside the aircraft, Marjorie Keene completed her account. Passenger refused confirmed assignment. Passenger delayed boarding. Passenger referenced outside influence. Captain Everett Sloan added that the assignment had been verified before removal. He did not write which version he had verified. At the departure office, Maya Torres was told to close the concierge request as completed successfully. Her cursor stopped above the selection. The duty manager stood behind her chair. Once the door closes, we clean up the remaining fields. Maya looked at the transaction number printed near the bottom of the window. She copied it onto the back of a baggage reconciliation slip. Then she selected no option at all. The manager reached past her and minimized the window. Probation is not the time to complicate a departure. On board, First Officer Owen Park noticed an amber prompt on the cockpit terminal. Post-scan passenger record modification. He pointed to it. Captain, there was an edit after boarding. Everett continued reading the departure checklist. Cabin services resolved it. The prompt asks for review. The passenger is off. Finish the checklist. Owen entered the time in his personal flight log and said nothing else. At North Star Meridian headquarters, Graham Whitlock received the financing alert while legal staff were preparing the next morning's closing package. He first assumed a signature page was missing. Then he saw Nadia's name attached to a passenger removal report. He called Leah. What would resolve the hold? An independent review of the original record. We can discuss service recovery after she lands. She is not on the aircraft. Graham stopped turning the pages in front of him. Leah continued. The seat change occurred after boarding. Your crew then used the changed assignment as the basis for removal. Graham asked operations for the original scan, the concierge request, and the security dispatch reason. 3 separate systems returned 3 different times. Nadia had entered the aircraft first. Bennett Carlisle's preference arrived later. The operational reassignment code appeared after both events. At the departure office, Maya opened the ethics portal. She entered the transaction number from the baggage slip and wrote one sentence. VIP preference converted into cabin irregularity after passenger boarded. She submitted it without attaching a photograph. In the cockpit, Owen opened the post-flight safety channel before the aircraft reached the runway queue. He recorded that Everett had been alerted to a post-scan change and had declined to review it. Neither witness knew the other had acted. Bennett posted a short video from first class. It began with Nadia already standing. His caption read, Passenger refuses assigned seat and delays international flight. Leah issued a preservation notice before the post could be edited. Graham called Nadia directly. We can correct this when you arrive in London. Nadia looked through the terminal glass at the aircraft lights moving toward the taxiway. The passenger incident and the financing decision remain separate. The financing stays paused until your company identifies which record came first. She did not mention the size of the deal. She did not ask him to fire anyone. North Star's legal team found the missing fact before Graham answered. Everett's report said the seat had been verified. It did not say the assignment he verified had been created after Nadia objected. Operations ordered Flight 712 to return to the gate. When the aircraft stopped, an independent investigator arrived carrying a version history printout. The first entry confirmed Nadia in seat 2A. The second moved Bennett there after boarding. On the terminal screen, the removal status changed. Unsubstantiated commercial override review. One sentence in Everett's report hid the entire sequence. Did you notice which sentence it was? The replacement captain clipped a temporary command badge to his jacket and walked past Everett Sloan without stopping. Everett remained beside the gate door. His own badge sat inside a gray security envelope held by the operations investigator. A red custody label crossed the flap. Everett reached toward it once. The investigator moved the envelope out of range. Marjorie Keene stood several feet away with her employee wings removed. Her access token had already stopped working at the crew entrance. She pressed it to the reader a second time. The light stayed red. Bennett Carlisle waited near an executive relations manager who had brought him bottled water. Nadia Ellison received no chair inside the review office. A coordinator placed one hand across the doorway. Crew interviews are confidential. Nadia looked through the narrow window. Bennett was already speaking. He is not crew. He is part of the onboard event. So am I. The coordinator repeated the policy instead of answering. Leah Moreno placed a legal pad beneath her arm. We will wait for the formal fax session. Nadia stepped away from the door. She did not demand access. She sent one instruction to Ellison Ridge Capital. Financing would remain paused until North Star Meridian corrected the passenger record, preserved every related complaint, and separated commercial preferences from passenger removal authority. Inside the office, the investigator placed an interview sequence sheet on the table. Everett said he had followed the active assignment. Marjorie said service recovery policy allowed reasonable passenger movement. Bennett said he had merely asked whether his usual preference was available. Then Maya Torres entered. Her probation badge hung from a plain cord. She gave the investigator the reference number she had preserved and identified the manager who had told her to close the concierge request. Owen Park entered next. He described the warning prompt Everett had declined to open. The investigator moved Bennett's name from witness to involved party. No one announced the change. A black line appeared beside his name on the sequence sheet. The investigator then requested every post-boarding premium seat override entered under Marjorie's credential during the previous 2 years. The search returned 14 records. 9 involved passengers who had already scanned into the aircraft. 6 contained the same explanation: operational seating balance. 4 had later become conduct complaints. None showed an actual broken seat, double booking, or safety defect. 2 days later, North Star Meridian convened a governance review. Graham Whitlock sat at the head of the table with a conduct appendix placed over the financing papers. Nadia sat across from him. Leah remained beside her. The appendix showed that Marjorie had used a policy designed for broken seats, missed connections, and family separation. None applied. Everett had cited captain authority without examining the commercial action that created the dispute. The airport response had relied on the latest assignment while ignoring whether that assignment had existed when Nadia boarded. Graham closed the appendix. What would allow the financing to proceed? Nadia did not ask for ownership of the airline. She listed conditions: an independent conduct monitor, a correction attached permanently to her removal record, no concierge request capable of displacing a boarded passenger, a second-person review before removal when a dispute begins with reassignment, clawback authority if executives conceal future findings, quarterly disclosure of post-boarding seat changes by race and cabin, an outside review of every complaint connected to the 14 overrides. Graham asked for a recess. Nadia left the conditions on the table. The board approved them before the afternoon ended. Marjorie was terminated for cause for unauthorized commercial reassignment, misuse of service recovery policy, and material omissions in her conduct statement. Her termination record did not use the phrase customer service lapse. It identified discriminatory application of authority. Her crew access ended immediately. Every override connected to her credential was frozen for outside review. Everett was removed from command and terminated after the review found that he had used safety authority to enforce a commercial preference without examining its origin. His separation was classified as termination for cause. No resignation agreement. No paid transition. No final ceremonial flight. A regulator referral form was filed concerning his command judgment and reporting accuracy. Until that review ended, North Star would not verify him for another command position. Bennett lost concierge privileges, priority recovery access, and invitation-only status across North Star's partner network. A preservation order covered his original recording, edited post, and messages with executive relations. North Star also issued a written finding that his preference request had initiated an unauthorized displacement. That finding was sent to the family office that managed his corporate travel account. The account removed him as an approved traveler the following morning. The station duty manager was demoted and lost override access. Maya received protection from retaliation. She also received a delayed intervention finding. Owen received a command responsibility notation for remaining silent until after pushback. Neither witness was rewarded, as though the delay had not mattered. North Star sent Nadia a correction notice. It stated that she had held a valid, confirmed seat, had complied with the direction to leave, and had not engaged in disruptive conduct. The original classification remained visible only with the correction attached beside it. The financing closed after the signed governance amendment was deposited with the board secretary. Several weeks later, Maya handled another London departure. A concierge request appeared for a window suite occupied by a boarded passenger. The new screen offered no reassignment control. A single message appeared. Confirmed boarded passenger cannot be displaced for preference. Maya closed the request. No manager was called. No passenger was asked to move. In the governance archive, Everett's command badge and Marjorie's disabled access token rested in separate evidence sleeves beside the signed amendment and Nadia's correction notice. The authority they had used was still visible. It simply no longer worked. Speak while your job may still be affected, or stay silent until someone else has already been removed. Which choice would you trust yourself to make? This is a fictional story,